new hot and techy Brezza, the Citybird SUV.
Delhi Capitals have won 2 on the bounce. They now get home comforts. They play at the Firozshah Kotla for the first time this season. Standing in front of them, the free-scoring Sunrisers Hyderabad. What can we expect from the game? We build up to it on Maruti Suzuki Arena, presents ESPNcricinfo Timeout in the company of Tom Moody, Mitch McClenaghan and Wasim Jaffer. Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Firozshah Kotla always brings up the question on what to expect, so I will go to the local knowledge first. Wasim, what can we expect as we embark on a new season at the Kotla?
Well, it's anybody's guess, to be honest, because last season playing with Delhi, they were not happy with the surface, with the practice facility. So I don't know if they'll be happy, but I hope the conditions have improved because you want to go to the home place and obviously get a good surface, and they kind of playing a good cricket at the moment. They're coming with back-to-back wins, and you don't want to go to your home ground and not being happy with the surface. So I hope, Saurav especially, obviously, that message around what kind of pitch they want and the practice facility are improved from last season. But yeah, I mean, Vizag was much better for them. But Delhi is a tricky one. Sometimes you get the low and low bounce and slow surface. Sometimes you get spinning wickets. So I hope it's a better one this time around.
I'll tell you what they will be happy about. Vizag was a ground where they conceded 270 to KKR. So you wouldn't fancy going up against SRH on that kind of a lineup. But yeah, the point holds that Delhi last season won only 2 out of 7 at home. But they now have a run of 3 games at this venue. How does a team shape up when they know that the home ground hasn't really been as advantageous?
Oh, look, I think they would have been trying to park last year. They've got a different unit this year. They're coming off the back of 2 wins, which is important. Momentum's important, and they'll be going into this game knowing the way Ricky thinks. He'll be setting this up as a semi-final for them, as a playoff. So I expect them to come out absolutely firing, regardless of the conditions. And the positive thing is that they do have, when it comes to the bowling side of things, they've got a full Indian bowling attack. They know the conditions, they know how to bowl in those conditions, and that's a massive advantage.
Sunrisers, though, have quite enjoyed their time playing at this venue. Lots of wins around the time when you were there. What used to work for Sunrisers when they went to Delhi?
I think spin was important for us. We've had over the years, always good spin options, right back to the Amit Mishra days, right through to Rashid Khan and Bipul Sharma. Had all sorts of different spin options that have had success there. And I think from memory, we've been lucky with the toss a couple of times where we've batted second and the dew's been quite heavy. And we've taken advantage of a slowish surface batting first that suddenly just quickens up a little bit because the dew's settling on the pitch, and then therefore the ball's skidding on a bit better. So, that's giving you an honest sort of reflection of it.
So if we do get the regular Kotla, the low-scoring Kotla, could it be detrimental to Sunrisers that they don't have that amount of spin options to fall back upon?
Absolutely it will. That's the one thing that, if anything, that will slow down the Sunrisers and teams like the Sunrisers that don't have a world-class spinner, whether it be an Indian spinner or an overseas spinner. I think at the second half of the tournament, what we will see is that being potentially exposed, where the opportunity will be there for the domestic spinners or the overseas spinners, but if they're not sort of in the Rashid Khan category or, Tikshana or Jadeja or Ashwin or Chahal type category, it may well be their weak link. So they can score as many runs as they like, but if they haven't got the I suppose, versatility in their bowling attack, it may be exposed.
Delhi's wins, the wins they've got on the bounce, have come on the back of disciplined bowling efforts, which have come from all Indian bowling attacks. Do you expect them to keep the same combination? And particularly considering they played the 3 overseas last time, when you're facing a side as batting heavy as Sunrisers, is there a temptation to add a 6th bowling option?
Not overseas. I think the Indian seamers have done a good job. I thought Khalil and Ishan have bowled brilliantly with the new ball. And Mukesh have done well in the last game. Their 2 spinners obviously going to remain the same. If at all, I feel if it's a turning pitch, you can get tempted to play Lalit Yadav. He can give you that batting option, even though Tristan Stubbs do bowl. He got a couple of wickets last game. But given an opportunity, if Warner is fit, you could easily play 4 overseas batters and strengthen that side of the game.
I think that's a high possibility. If Warner passes the fitness test, he might slot in. So where does he slot in? I think the way Fraser McGurk plays, he's more suited to opening over here in India, particularly at home for Delhi. So David Warner might slot into that number 3. He's a good game manager in that middle phase as well once he gets out of the power play. So he's a great option there, and they might just have to leave Sumit Kumar out of that lineup if they go with that list.
Thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the one concern for Delhi Capitals is the fact that if this surface is a repeat of what we've seen in the past, and it is slow and is taking turn, their top order is all overseas, or most of it's overseas. So therefore, you would think more the Indian-style player, whether it be an international Indian or a domestic Indian player, would be better accustomed to dealing with those conditions than an overseas player coming in, particularly given that we haven't seen too many games this year, and certainly neither of these two teams have played on slow-turning surfaces yet, so it might be a real shock to the system.
This contest also gives us a matchup to savour potentially, because Kuldeep Yadav at the top of his craft coming up against Heinrich Klaasen, who's been on song. It just feels like the kind of matchup that could dictate the contest. How do you see it playing out, and how would you imagine Kuldeep bowls to Klaasen?
It's a mouth-watering prospect, isn't it? You know, you've got arguably the form spinner in world cricket in Kuldeep and the form spin hitter in the game in Klaasen up against each other. I think a lot will depend on the surface. If the surface is, slow and turning, I'd sort of favour Kuldeep in the contest. But if it's a good batting surface and it's a high-scoring game that's sort of up around that sort of 180 to 200 mark, that ground's not a particularly big ground. Not that Klaasen's too bothered about the boundary size. He seems to clear it by 20 or 30 yards, but I would fancy Klaasen. So I think a lot's going to depend on conditions, but that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, and you look at recent form with Klaasen against the left arm wrist spinner. He took Noor Ahmed down in one of those overs that they played versus Gujarat Titans. So his form against that type of bowler is good. Yep, Kuldeep is another step up. He's probably one of the world's best spinners at the moment. So it'll be a fascinating matchup.
The last time Kuldeep was up against an overseas spin basher, he didn't take long to dislodge Nicholas Pooran. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, Kuldeep has that ability to bowl that, the outstanding delivery, which can get the best of the batters out. But again, that matchup when Klaasen comes, I think Kuldeep comes on to bowl. I hope that is going to happen. And anything can happen. Sometimes when you've got those wrist spinners, they produce those kind of deliveries. So it can go anywhere. So looking forward to that.
Kuldeep versus Klaasen. It should be a cracker, as indeed should be Rishabh Pant returning to Delhi after 2 years. What can we expect from the game? Build up to it will start just before toss time on Maruti Suzuki Arena. Presents ESPNcricinfo Timeout.
All new hot and techy Brezza, the Citybird SUV.